Okay, so pick and ban phase is finished. On blue team, we have banned out Kassadin, Kha'Zix, and Jax, all really strong solo queue champions right now. Jax is just starting to make a comeback, and he takes a little bit to get rolling, but he is an absolute monster if he gets ahead, if he gets to mid to late game. So I'm fine with that ban. I don't really have any complaints about it. On the flip side, though, purple team did ban out Vi, Yasuo, and Mundo. Again, strong bans, no complaints. I was going to mention originally that blue team didn't ban out Vi, but it was already done for them, so they didn't need to worry about that. As far as champion picks, blue team has picked up a mid lane Ahri, a AD carry Varus, which we don't see that much of anymore. He's still a really good champion, but he's just a little bit outclassed. He does offer a lot of utility, though, with his ult and his percentage health damage, though, so that'll be interesting to see how well he functions throughout this match. Then we have a jungle Elise, definitely top tier jungler right now, along with a few others. Teemo top lane, which is really good, and Leona support. So really solid team comp here. They have a lot of pick potential between the Varus ult, the Ahri charms, the Elise stuns, the Leona stuns, the Teemo shrooms. They have really, really good pick potential for assassination. They have really good AoE ults between Leona and Varus, easily cleaned up then by Ahri bouncing around and Teemo. So I like that team comp. My only slight complaint there is that they don't have the best disengage. It's not bad. It's not as though they don't have any disengage, but it's not what you might hope for on some teams. Then on the other side, you have a mid lane Zed facing up against the Ahri. I would expect Zed to win that lane, honestly. We have a Kayle top. Kayle versus Teemo is a skill matchup, but we would expect Kayle to be bullying that lane and Teemo to be bullying the lane as well. So it's just going to boil down to who gets ganks, who bullies better. Kayle does have a little bit better initiation for ganks with her very, very potent slow, her move speed, and her healing to keep her a little bit higher health in lane. And of course, after level 6, the invulnerability. So we'll be interested to see how that lane goes. But in terms of actual laning there, they just kind of want to scale up. They don't really want to fight each other besides to try and build up an advantage to zone. Then bot lane, they have an Ashe Lulu. Ashe Lulu is actually a pretty big thing. I believe it was Cloud9 was running it last season. No, they were originally running Ashe Zyra. I apologize. But Lulu Ashe is a lot of poke, a lot of disengage, and a lot of hard engage between the Ashe arrow, the polymorph, the slows. So I like that combination. But they are really squishy with not a lot of mobility to get out of range of Leona if she does try and dive in. Then we have a Cho'Gath jungle, which is a little bit uncommon. He's a fine jungler, but he does have some weaknesses, mostly mobility. If you have any sort of mobility, you're going to be able to dodge pretty much all of Cho'Gath's skills. So we'll see how that boils down and how it's played, but a well-played team is going to be able to dodge a lot of Cho'Gath's damage, and unless Cho'Gath snowballs, he doesn't build into the unkillable late-game tank. So, the game is starting now. Our 3-minute delay is over, and we will be able to start commentating soon. If there's any final questions in chat, please let us know, and we'll try and answer them as we're going through the loading phase.
Just want to point out, I remember a week ago I was playing in one of these workshop games and I banned Jax. And I remember you commented on it. You were saying Jax is an odd ban when there are characters like Riven, for instance. And Jax has started to make a comeback. He's like especially with Riven and other top lane bullies getting nerfed. So that's a good ban, especially with lower rating matches.
Because Jax is purple. That's the meta right now. Ban purple champions.
Yes.
Think about it.
Of course, of course.
You ban all the purple champions, and that's why Lulu's OP, because she likes purple.
Exactly. Lulu mid lane.
Someone was asking, support Cho'Gath, does it work? It's incredibly mana hungry, and early game Cho'Gath is not very tanky. So no, it doesn't really work. Anything can be made to work, but support Cho'Gath, there's not really any reason to pick it. His early game damage isn't that good, his early game tankiness isn't that good, his mana costs are incredibly intensive, and without farm he doesn't really scale up that well. So no, I don't think it's worth it. At that point, just pick a Nami. Your bubble is about the same as a Rupture.
A lot of the abnormal supports that you don't see often can be played pretty well, and you can make them work, but it requires you to be pretty mechanically skilled. Like, I feel Veigar support's really, really strong, but you have to constantly be able to hit your E's.
Yeah, Vigor support is sort of a thing in certain elos. Someone was asking who that was. That was Infamous No One. I know him from a different forum, and trying out to essentially join a ranked team with him. He just popped into the Mumble server here.
Yeah, I'm watching the game.
I think it's also supports have to fill a role, and with Cho'Gath, I'm not sure what role he would fill as a support. He knocks people up, and he can do single target damage and silence, but there are 10 million champions that can do that just as well without any of the drawbacks.
And so many more advantages. Someone was also asking about Rise support. No, just no. Don't bother. Rise is so weak. They're making some changes to him. We'll see if it brings him back into viability. But Rise has so many problems just as a champion. He's always going to be either underpowered or overpowered with his certain kit because it's all in numbers balance. His kit, when it's strong, it's annoying and it's abusive, and if he gets ahead, he's just going to mash his face on the keyboard and pick up a pentakill. So I don't think, no. Don't play Rise support. Someone was asking, how do you win if your team always feeds? You need to snowball heavily early and then help your team before they can feed. That's why roles like mid lane, like jungle, like support are so influential, because they have a strong early game impact on a large number of lanes.
Essentially, you should treat your team like tiny baby children. And, if you see your ADC wandering towards an outlet, you gently guide them away, for instance. You put away sharp objects by killing the enemy carry.
Exactly. And then you have Jax, who I always refer to having an awkward adolescent phase, where it's like, you're not quite there, but someday your voice will change, your balls will drop, and you'll be a very handsome hero.
Yeah, how to carry or how to win if your team feeds varies depending on what kind of role you're playing.
For sure, but usually the most reliable one is map control and early snowballing.
And vision control, absolutely.
Yeah.
As a support, you generally want to try to pick champions that are... There are support champions that are force multipliers, for instance, Soraka. If your team is doing really well with Soraka... I'm just turning off my sound 1 second. If your team is doing really well with Soraka, you can definitely help them along. But you're not going to bring a super huge amount to the table. 100 times 0 is still 0.
Unless you play Battle Soraka.
Oh, Battle Soraka, too strong. But other champions are able to make plays and sort of carry in their own right.
So I'm interested to see the early phase of top lane here, because both of them are very, very heavy harass and bully champions, but both are pretty squishy early game. So it's really going to boil down to who executes their harass more effectively.
I'm also interested to see how middle lane goes. Ahri has been hit with the nerf bat successively a few times, but she just did win a game yesterday, Team Coast versus Team Solo Mid. Lichbane Ahri actually picked up the win, so we'll see whether she's able to win against Zed and carry her team.
But are we actually arguing that TSM's a real team now?
Ari's nerf arguably isn't necessarily a nerf, it just adds counterplay to her kit, because assuming you're hitting your E constantly, you are doing more damage than the previous Ahri was. It's just you have more single target damage than AoE damage.
The problem is you need to land absolutely everything now in order to pick up a kill, and also the meta shift has absolutely decimated Ahri. Roaming assassins were so popular last season because supports never got items. Like they literally would build a sight stone, usually of philosophers if they're feeling rich, and then just stack pink wards. So that Ahri, that LeBlanc, that Cassin, whatever roaming assassin you want to play, you just go bot lane every 30 seconds and pick up a kill. We do have a gank coming in on mid lane. Shadow comes out from Zed, and it looks like he's going to be able to walk away. That does put the ignite of Ahri on cooldown. Yeah, and they do break off the chase.
We mentioned this earlier. Riot released some stats that revealed that as the game goes on, Elise's win rate drops the most out of any champion. She's an extremely...
Elise getting caught right here.
The flash from kill, I'm not sure if that was really necessary. You knew you were going to get in range regardless, and it really boiled down to Cho'Gath being able to land that Rupture. If he landed the Rupture, it's 100% guaranteed kill.
Here.
Elise flashes out, Ahri comes, drops a charm on Cho'Gath, and both members of Blue Team are going to walk away unscathed. Kudos to both Ahri and Elise there for not panicking and knowing their champion's limits.
And now I do want to point out, though, that Kale having had to sort of go help her team, which was a good play, did get Teemo back into this game a little bit, where Teemo was really, really low. And he was pushed back into his tower. He was having a lot of issues facing this Kale. He was able to pick up a few extra CS. He was able to get a little extra bit of experience. So it's good that he didn't roam. I'm happy to see him not trying to help his team in that, and instead to play a little bit greedy, because he does need to just kind of rush towards 6 and start his shroom farm.
Varus forced the flash bottom.
Make sure that Varus gets out safe, so well played on her part.
You guys were at the live time, right? Roughly around 5:23?
Yeah,
Yep.
5:21, 5:23.
Alright, cool.
Oh,
Just
Teemo
making
actually
sure.
ended up getting first blood. I'm going to rewind and just see exactly what set that up. Looks like Kale is trying to focus on farm rather than trades. And so Teemo's able to just kind of stand there, ignite, and auto-attack. And as a result, he's going to pick up that kill very, very easily. He did not need to use that flash, though. The minions were focusing him, but they should not have had enough time to kill him. He could have just walked right back into the bush and been perfectly safe.
People tend to underestimate damage that isn't up front. Dots don't really get the respect they deserve a lot of the time when they...
Okay, I do want to take a quick look at bot lane. Unfortunately, I've been a little bit distracted with some others. I want to see how they're setting up their fights here, how they're
Leona
positioning.
going on Ashe. Not gonna quite pick up that kill though.
Oh, I forgot to go back to live.
So both bot lanes, they're both being quite aggressive. Oh wow, Varus picks
Varus
up a
picking
kill
up
with an
that
excellent
kill.
E. Ashe stuck around a little too long. She was at low health and she just kind of didn't give Varus's range the respect it deserved. She thought she was safe, and with Varus, with his Q and E, you're very often not.
Both top laners very low right now.
Yes, and Kale does have her ult up. If Teemo were to try and fight with that up, that's going to immediately go and be a free kill for Kale.
Right.
Infamous, you do have some feedback on your mic there. I'm not sure if you just have speakers really close or what.
Sorry, is this better?
Yes. So Cho'Gath coming in, lands a really good rupture, and Kale goes over to Kale for absolute free. Good response for Cho'Gath, just noticing that was a really easy gank to pull off, and a very nice rupture landed.
Mid lane has had no kills yet, but Zed is up by 13 CS, which is effectively a kill. So Ari needs to catch up and get a little bit back into the game.
At this point, I would expect to see both mid laners starting their roam. On both Ari and on Zed, once you're level 6, you really just want to be able to make picks for yourself. So being able to shove into turret and then use that little bit of free time you've bought yourself to go roam is really powerful. Elise tries to come in bot, lands the stun. Now she was standing on a ward, so I'm a little bit surprised that Purple Team didn't back out a little earlier. Leona not able to connect with the Zenith Blade, and they're just going to walk away. A lot of damage, though. And Barrier actually used by Varus. Definitely not needed, though. I would have saved that summoner, honestly.
Varus is slightly underrated. He's being crowded out right now by the holy trinity of Jinx, Lucian, and
Caitlyn.
yeah,
Jinx has
Caitlyn.
fallen off quite a bit.
Right, Jinx is getting hit with like the 1000 nerf bat, but he's still a very strong pick. His AoE is really unparalleled. His ult is very strong.
We see Zed going in onto Ari. Ari, I believe, actually flashes away. Not gonna go down on either side. No. No, she has to use ult as well to escape, because she decided to go back in before Elise was able to show up. Teemo picks up another kill. Oh, actually they trade kills.
Top lane is just a bloodbath right now.
Are you greatly overextending here? Playing very risky.
No, that actually wasn't a risky play from Ari, only because Zed had already burned his ult, he had already burned his flash, and Ari has her charm and ignite. So she can just kind of kite around the max range using her skills. If she misses a skill shot, just walk away, and in the meantime, Elise is going to get a lot of damage in.
That had his shadow up and he had Cutlass up.
So let's talk a little bit about gold. Blue team is 3 kills up, but they're only about half a grand up, and that's because purple is farming quite well. You have Zed with a kill advantage up. You have Kale being a few CS up, and so on. And that farm is meaning that even though they're getting behind in kills, they're not too behind in the grand scheme of things.
And Cho'Gath is actually doing a really good job of picking up extra farm, picking up extra experience around the map right now.
Right, Cho'Gath is going to scale into the late game far heavier than Elise, so he doesn't need to be the biggest, strongest counter jungler and ganker right now. He just needs to start slowly snowballing ahead and getting fat. Zed now 20 CS up on Ahri, 2 kills worth.
He's also now taking Wraiths, which is a really good thing to do. He has his Cutlass. He is going to have some lifesteal, so he's not going to lose anything for this. He is an energy caster. So anytime you can get those free
top
CS...
lane, Kale forced the ulti here, forced the flash as well. Teemo flashes, Teemo picking up the kill.
Teemo and Kale are about even in gold. They just keep trading kills to keep going back and forth. Kale does have a farm advantage, though, and I do believe that will allow her to continue to go toe-to-toe with Teemo despite being a kill behind.
My own personal preference when fighting an Ahri, you really do want to avoid being in direct range for her charm. Zed going aggressive, he gets a lot of damage on, which is really good for him because he has a lot more sustain than Ahri has. But that being said, you're essentially just face tanking any skill she wants to throw at you at that point, and as a result, you are going to get charmed pretty much every time. If I were him, I might be trying to save that shadow, looking for the animation starting, and then using it to get a free little bit of extra damage, a little bit less return damage as well. Teemo does not back into the knockout from Cho'Gath, but the red buff tick is on, and silence on. Kale does not want it though, she just would rather go farm.
Zed going very aggressive here, gets caught up by Elise.
So right now there is a goal difference for blue, and partly that's because of them taking a tower down on bot lane, because Elise gets a kill, and Kaylee picking up another kill on Teemo. Teemo just being a little too aggressive going for that kill on Cho. He did quite well considering it was a 2-on-1, but almost isn't enough.
Yeah, Leona's doing a really good job bot lane. Unfortunately, they weren't able to take him down originally, but Leona is making really good calls in who she's focusing, how she's landing her skills, and how she's just absorbing every single cooldown that she can to try and give Varus free reign of this lane.
We're seeing a lot of really high-impact, high-skill Leonas in workshops, and she's not a particularly difficult character in the grand scheme of things. She's not like a Yasuo or an Elise where you're just like keeping track of 10 million things. But having a simple kit does not mean that she can't be played poorly at all. And we're seeing a lot of dedicated Leona players who have sort of have that champion down and know how to protect their carry.
So we are at the 12.5-minute mark now, approximately.
Elise
So I
getting
would
caught
expect
out
to
in
see them
mid.
try and set up a dragon in the near-ish future.
Zed ulting Elise. Elise gets away over Baron Pit.
Elise is slippery. Cho is chasing. Teemo's coming down, so Cho backs off. I think Cho knows that he was about to get pincered in between 3 people and decided nope, he wanted no part of that. So that was a good call on his part, not chasing, not getting greedy.
So Varus is staying alone bot lane. That's a mistake I see a lot of lower-rated bot lane players do. If you do not have your carry with you, if you do not have your support with you, you kind of just need to hug turret, because if a gank comes in here, if they land an Ashe arrow, if they land something, you have no way to live through that almost every time. So if your support's leaving, if your AD carry's leaving, that's fine, but you need to find something that you can do safely during that. Whether it's picking up just a little bit of experience, whether it's roaming, whatever it is, it needs to be done in a safe manner, or the enemy team should be punishing it.
Oh, the bloodbath on top just continues, where Kale has Cho come in, Teemo's low, and Kale goes, I want the kill, so she swings in, tries to drop a Q, and Teemo just turns around and picks up the kill. Kale should have backed out and had faith in her jungler.
Here's that dragon I was calling for. At this point, they know where bot lane is. They're really pushed back. They're really low, or Lulu anyways was really low. So they're using that map knowledge, that slight advantage of just, you're a little low to try and fight this, to pick up a free objective. Leona getting a ward in by blue buff. It's unlikely that they're going to steal that blue buff, or I don't think they will anyways, but it's still really good knowledge to have. You then get vision of their jungler, you get vision of whoever's going to take it, and you can set up some really good fights. Another kill goes over to Leona. Leona is actually doing a really, really good job right now. She's 3-0-2, and she already has both her Sightstone and her Boots 5. I would expect to see her start to pull in a little bit of roam, actually, because Leona ganks are pretty damn devastating.
So blue team is showing us an excellent example of how an advantage snowballs. At the 9 or so minute mark, they were ahead of in kills, but both teams were even on the gold count, and blue team is just slowly pushing every advantage.
Top lane Kale going very aggressive on Teemo. Teemo trying to bait him into the shrooms, but still picks up the kill with his poison.
Yeah, Teemo's doing a really good job of saying, hey, I probably have shrooms over here. You really don't want to chase me. But then he's using that indecision of, do I want to fight him, do I want to chase him? To sort of kite back and forth, landing that little bit of damage. I'm going to rewind that so we can catch the bot lane fight.
Right here. Right. Let you take care of that then.
A good Varus all essentially just blocking off how their team's moving. Not really able to do that much with it though. Zed is also coming through, so they have a very fantastic numbers advantage. It all started off with a really good rupture coming in from Cho'Gath, and then Leona trying to engage, which wasn't the wisest plan at that point. Good charm coming out. Leona still has her ult up here, so I would expect her to cut off in the tri-bush. Okay, I'm not sure why she didn't ult the try. Oh, she didn't have mana, that's what it was. I was wondering why she wasn't ulting.
We have Zed disconnected. So while the game is paused, let's just take a quick moment to talk about how blue team is really like pushing objectives and snowballing hard to the fact where they have almost a 5k gold advantage. They took Dragon, bot lane took bot tower, Teemo took top tower, it looks like. So they're just slowly pushing advantages and pushing their strengths across the map, and that's slowly adding up to a very large advantage.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job of just continuing that chokehold on the enemy team, not giving up objectives, not giving up fights for free. If one person's dying, they're taking something else on the map, which is exactly what you want to do.
So from the perspective of a silver player, I'm going to ask you two high-level guys, what would purple team do in if they had, like, for instance, if they were all in voice chat, what strategy would they
I would say ward
place?
And call fights. Because they have a really good pick comp between the Ashe Arrow, the Zed Assassination, the Kayle Invulnerability. They have the damage, they have the CC to set up a fight, or more preferably at this point when you're this far behind, an Assassination. But to do that, you need vision, and you need to be on the same page of what target you're focusing and where you're going to try and land that fight on the map.
Absolutely. In a coordinated 5v5 team, Ashe can be very, very scary with that initiation.
Zed coming in with the ult, that's going to be a very, very dead Ahri. As we all know, cool kids don't look at explosions.
Right. Elise is a very early game jungler. She applies a lot of pressure to the map early on and falls out late game. So kudos to Instinct 7. He's really knowing his champion's strengths. He's not sitting in the jungle and sitting there with his thumb up his butt taking race. He's all over the map. He's all over skirmishes. He knows where he needs to be. Kayle taking top tower. It looks like she will be able to get it, but Teemo's coming up to contest that.
Just a reminder to people in chat, link protection is turned on right now, as well as a couple of blacklisted phrases, and that is due to a number of spam bots that tend to invade the stream on Sundays and workshops.
Lionel going in hard on Ashe, hits an ulti, stuns Ashe, picking up the kill. Lulu also goes down, Cho'Gath getting engaged on.
There's a really good overlap of CC. I think that Varus could have positioned a little bit better, though. Constantly moving forward to keep somewhat out of damage threat range, but keep in range to continue pumping out damage as the enemy team is obviously going to keep retreating. I think they could have picked up an extra target. Probably Cho'Gath could have been taken down with his percentage health damage. In the long run, though, it's not bad.
They're going very aggressive on
That
Zed.
is way too deep on him, yes.
I'm just going to point out an itemization note on Ashe. Ashe currently has a Zeal and a pickaxe. No sustain through lifesteal, and no BF sword at 18 minutes.
Arrow comes in, hits Ari right as she ults. Nothing's really going to come from it, but Kale is landing a lot of damage in here. I would have expected them to turn on to Elise in that. Elise is very low mana and caught away from her team because she tried to sort of dive into Peel. I think if they focused that in, they could have got a really easy pick onto the enemy jungler, and then maybe even been able to turn around and fight the enemy carries.
So Ash's item, she has no lifesteal, and she has no BF sword at 18 minutes, and that's extremely problematic.
Great Teemo assassination.
Sorry, go ahead.
If I were Ash, I would have gotten a lifesteal scepter and then rushed an Infinity Edge, especially because of the synergy with her passive. That would have given her an easier time in landing against Varus, and also given her much more teamfight presence now that we're transitioning out of laning phase.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, you do want that early Bloodthirster, but when you're behind, you kind of have to make choices. And denying yourself any form of sustain is going to make it really hard to try and set up fights. Good Shrooms coming out here. That's going to be Kale alt used, and Teemo is going to be devoured here.
It's important to note Kale isn't taking full advantage of the offensive mastery tree, not choosing to take a point in spell weaving and blade weaving, where Kale's auto does stack up both of them.
Yes, now have they fixed that?
No.
Because I know they fixed it with Teemo, or at least it's on PvE where they're saying that passive skills that apply, like, if you have a passive skills that applies on auto attack, it shouldn't apply both, is what they're saying.
They might have fixed it on PvE, but still not on the live servers, at least for Kill.
I would just like to take a moment to really just chat. Right now is very positive. People are asking questions. People are answering questions. People are talking and joking with each other without shit talking. So the attitude is really pleasant to watch. And it's
going
great to
very
see.
aggressive on Lulu. Lulu ults herself, trying to get away. Doesn't look. Managed to pick up the kill. It's going very aggressive on Ashe, flashes over the wall, and they are going to pick up that kill on Ashe. But Kale does pick up the kill on Elise.
Yeah, good roam coming down from Kale. I would expect Cho'Gath to chase in really heavily here, because Kale's in behind, and Zed's there. Instead, Cho'Gath decides to go for farm instead. That is definitely a misplay, I would say. If Cho'Gath was able to land a second set of CC, they would have been able to just turn and decimate this team.
Going to get away, though, through Spirit Rush.
In the meantime, turns on to Leona. Leona is definitely dead there. Varus goes down. So they still did end up picking up both the targets they wanted. They're going to turn it into a dragon now. Use the numbers advantage you have. Just try and push any advantage you get in the game and turn it into global objectives. Turn it into map pressure.
So while Purple Team is skirmishing down on bot picking up Dragon, let's talk about what Teemo's doing. Teemo is not only pushing top lane, he's also putting down shrooms everywhere. If I had any nitpicks as to what he's doing, I would be shrooming up Baron. I would be getting that area just covered in shrooms.
This is an example of what I mean by not many people take advantage of the objective control that Teemo has. Teemo can have a very weak laning phase, and you can go 0-3 in lane, and you can still contribute a lot to your team by just shrooming out Dragon Pit and shrooming out the Baron.
For sure. Now, my nitpick is that Teemo's gone for a very, very heavy AP build. In that process, he's not built any cooldown reduction, and he's built relatively low magic penetration. If you look at the enemy team, they don't have a lot of magic resist, but they do have a Spirit Visage coming out from the Cho'Gath, and Crucible, which is just a little bit of MR, but it's still something on Lulu. Personally, I would be building an early Morellonomicon to reduce healing, which Kale is going to heal a little bit, as well as any lifesteal from the enemy team, and allow you to drop 20% more shrooms, 20% more blinds. It's actually pretty potent. Flash comes out, able to dodge the Ashe arrow. Kale ult comes down, but not really going to turn into anything. Elise then turns around, jumps on, and a kill goes over to Teemo.
Right, we're just seeing Blue being excellent pushing advantages. They're rarely moving as 5. Instead, they have 3 people here, 2 people here. They're an octopus right now, and they're just covering the map and strangling it.
Cho'Gath Rupture doing a lot of damage, catching out Elise and Teemo.
What concerns me about Blue Team right now is they have a lot of champions that don't exactly turn into late game monsters. They do have Varus, who has a lot of utility, and they have Ahri, who is relevant all game long. But Purple Team has Cho'Gath, they have Zed, they have Ashe,
Lulu with a very clutch ulti on Zed, protecting him from Ahri's ulti.
There's a really nice ult coming out from Varus as well, but they're not able to return follow-up damage. They got the chains onto pretty much everyone they needed to, but they just couldn't land any extra damage.
Since Purple Team has so many late game champions, like I just said earlier, they're also catching up in gold. They're only 2k behind as opposed to 5k. So let's see if the game keeps going, if Purple Team can just turn this around.
Very interesting to note the itemization that Ari is going, choosing to go Ryla as a more tanky build rather than picking up a Deathfire Grasp.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that personally, because yes, you have some damage coming out from other people on the team, but Ari's job is usually to assassinate targets, not to have utility. There's a gigantic wave bottom, and I was going to mention, I'm surprised and a little bit disappointed that Ashe didn't go right to that. I would have expected her to get down there, pick up the farm so that she can get back into this game. She only has 60 CS in a 23-minute game. And unfortunately, that's not really acceptable. You need to be landing CS, you need to be picking it up wherever you can, or you're not going to have any real impact late game. Obviously, yes, it's Ashe, so her arrows are always going to be useful, but if you do no damage, that's going to be bad.
Very interesting to note, Varus just picked up Arunan's Hurricane.
Yeah, don't do that. Hurricane sort of works on Varus. It does, but it's still a bad item. It's never ever gold efficient, and I've mentioned that so many times in these workshops, and I think people just build it to troll me at this point, where they feel they're far enough ahead to justify it.
Timo getting caught out. Ashe gets caught by the Leona ulti.
Drogoth is having a really good influence in these fights. He's just being an immovable wall and zoning out any carries.
Varus very hard here. Dueling Varus in a 1v1. Varus ultis him. Cho looks like he's winning this matchup though, but Varus...
We're really seeing the difference here between an early game jungler and a late game jungler, where Elise is still being extremely relevant, but Cho'Gath is really starting to come into his own and just really contribute to fights with Rupture and Silence and just being fat as heck. So Purple Team actually has a gold advantage now. They're 1,000 up, and again, 1,000 gold does not make or break the game, but they are making a comeback from being 5k gold behind, and their late game team comp is really starting to shine through here.
Yeah, at this point they're only down 2 kills and 1 turret. So I would expect them, again, get your map control, which they seem to have done. They have some good wards out right now. But they need to be able to split push and set up some free objectives, some free farm, and some free kills for themselves. Teemo's definitely going to pick up this Ashe, though.
Right, Ashe is she's starting to get to the right place. She's starting to get her Iad. She has her Vamp Scepter. Unfortunately, she's still very behind. Although Varus only has 83 CS as well, so both ADCs are just not doing great at accumulating gold.
So the pick that blue team just picked up on Lulu, that was led off by Lulu trying to hold the tower while completely alone. So they just got cocooned, changed into CC, and able to pick it up. Zed gets a lot of damage onto Leona, and is immediately going to swap over and pick up the lovely Spider Lady. Dodges.
Gale is split pushing bottom, and Ari completely ignored her, going straight to mid.
Yeah, that's a really bad decision.
Ari also used Spirit Rush charge to get to the fight, and I really can't disagree with that more. Spirit charge is about mobility while you're already in a fight, and the damage cannot just be wasted to get somewhere faster.
Gale may be able to pick up a base turret.
Yeah, no one is reacting to the split push. And one of my biggest complaints when I was smurfing, when I was doing a lot of lower elo stuff, is no one reacts to split push. And then they wonder why they're losing the game, because you have a late game Nasus, a late game Tryndamere, a late game whoever, just whacking away at your base, and you're there saying, but we'll get a dragon. Well, yeah, but you're also going to lose 2 inhibitors in a base tower.
Ari, chasing down Kale, I don't think chasing is a good idea, especially because Lulu is coming. Ari does back out, but just going in was not a great idea. She didn't have her team, and she does not have vision on purple.
I would expect the next item that Teemo works towards, I would expect him to be getting a Liandry's. And my reasoning for that being, Liandry's is a late game item. You do not rush on Teemo, and the reason for that is because, oh, he's stealthing here. He's probably going to be able to pick up... No, never mind. There's 3 people there. He does pick up the Zed, but dies for his efforts. What I was going to say, though, is that rushing it early game, while the magic penetration is nice, a little bit of health is nice, the damage from it just really isn't there until you're dealing with health stack targets. And right now, Cho'Gath is doing an amazing job. So being able to counteract him with a Void Staff, being able to counteract him with a Liandry's, that should be his next focus. And I really do want to see some CDR coming out from him. Varus ult, great disengage to keep them off of the Leona and the Elise. In the meantime, though, Cho'Gath is back in and focusing down the AD carry. That's going to be a very, very dead Varus. Elise and Leona go in behind. They do pick up a kill, but again, I don't think it's really going to turn into anything. It's too little too late. They're focusing they're just too split to really make that fight work.
Watching Ashe auto-attack a target down is a little unfortunate. She just does not have the goal to do more than be a pea shooter at this point, unfortunately. And we're seeing how an ADC's laning phase really contributes to their ability to deal damage and fill their role late game.
Not sure if I completely agree with the play that I just saw. Ahri chose to flash to kill the Lulu support, putting her in a very awkward position, allowing Cho'Gath to chase her and effectively pick up the kill, whereas she could have played it safe and managed to just get out safe.
Yeah, I agree. Flashing for a kill is almost never worth it. The only time you want to flash for a kill or suicide for a kill is if your team is going to be able to get something using the pressure created by suiciding or flashing or what have you to pick up a kill on a AD carry or an AP carry or a high priority target late game. That's totally worth it, definitely.
Gale 1v1ing Teemo mid, manages to pick up the kill with her ulti.
Teemo is 9-10-0, so he has a lot of kills and he has taken 2 turrets top, but he's also just dying a whole lot. And it's one thing to be 0-10-0 where you're not worth anything and you're just shrooming and split pushing and being a constant thorn in his side, but Teemo's picking up kills. He's giving up the full 300 gold every time he dies.
So right now, Teemo, what he should be doing is trying to take objective control around the Baron pit, putting shrooms around it so his team can safely pick up a Baron and then continue their siege on purple side's base.
Yeah, and since he's left top lane in his perma-split push mode, he really doesn't have that many shrooms around the map anymore. He has some, and they're in good places, but if you looked even 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago top lane, it was absolutely plastered in shrooms, and that's just not the case anymore.
Leona also forced the flash.
Both Varus and Leona ulted, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. Sometimes you're just dead. Like, you're caught out, you were in a bad position, and there's nothing you can do. And blowing ultimates, like, it's an act of desperation, but that just means you do not have the cooldown for when you're up. Sometimes you should just accept your death.
That is a very dead Ahri.
Cho'Gath, currently this monster just leading the front line of the purple team.
I'm really impressed with Cho'Gath's play.
Right, Cho'Gath did not have much of an impact early game, but he didn't need to. He was biding his time to become the fat monster he is now. The BBVM, Big Beautiful Void Monster.
Right.
I like this kill style at this point where she knows, okay, I have my use in certain fights. Ooh, I don't agree with that.
Does lose a 1v1 though to Varus.
Yeah, I don't know why he did that fight. Originally I thought, oh, you're just going to ult yourself, but no, he didn't have ult up, so that was definitely a misplay. Varus does flash.
Dead misses the shadow over the wall.
Yeah, no shadow for him. He's not going to be able to escape that. I don't think he's going to be able to pick up this Leona either. Oh, never mind. Cho'Gath's there. True damage
Ash
OP.
currently trying to find out where this Varus is, but he is standing on top of a ward.
That's a really big deal for Ashe, and my reasoning for that is that she still doesn't have hardly any farm. Neither AD carry actually has much farm, so that's definitely something they need to work on. But at this point, she has some core items. She now has double buffs, and she got a good chunk of gold from that. So she's going to vault back into a more viable team fighter.
Let's briefly talk about vision. Blue has a couple of wards down and some shrooms in mid lane, but they seem to be trinket wards or they're all almost dead. Purple team has 2 pinks on the map, which is very cool, and they have objectives covered. Teemo should really be using shrooms to cover objectives more, both Dragon and Baron.
Another interesting thing to note about itemization is Zed opted to go for a Ravenous Hydra.
That's a standard build on him.
Really? I have never seen a Zed go Ravenous Hydra.
The reason is you want to get as many skills, or you want to get as much damage in during your ult as possible. Hydra is an auto attack reset. That's literally all it boils down to.
Standard after the Zed changes?
Sorry?
Did this become like a standard build after the Zed changes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right now we're actually seeing a number of pro Zeds build Sword of the Divine, because they can get more hits off during their ult.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
Elise proving that she's still relevant into the late game because of her percentage damage. Meanwhile, Teemo is going for Baron. He has one shroom down. Blue team is collapsing on Baron, it looks like. Only Cho'Gath is up, and it seems like he might be heading there. I don't know if he'll be able to stop it, though.
Yeah, I would expect this to be a free Baron. Elise is using her Spires to tank, as well as the Leona to tank. So they're not really going to take much damage as a result, and I would expect them to be able to even cut off this Cho'Gath if they definitely saw him out on a ward. No, he's just going to walk away. They're not going to be able to catch up to him.
So that was really good call. I believe it was Teemo who was pinging Baron. So that was a good call on his part. He knew that that was going to be free. He knew that there was no resistance, and he just went ahead and called it. So that was a good job on his part for leading his team to a free objective.
Ashe getting caught yet again with an Elise stun. Elise does have to flash out, but in the meantime, they've taken out the AD carry. If they can do the same to Zed, this fight should be reasonably simple. They just need to... Go ahead.
Blue and purple are both taking sustained damage. Teemo goes down from Deathmark, and Zed is just going in. He takes down Elise, but actually, Elise survives. Oh, no.
Almost.
Lulu gets Elise. But both teams are just really like chunking away at each other. But blue team does have the regen from Baron. They're able to survive that more. And ultimately, when the other team has Baron, sometimes going in isn't the best choice, especially when there's a tower right there, a full health tower at that.
Yeah, it was a really good pick that they made, but then they just overextended after it. Every time I see this Varus using his Hurricane, I kind of want to hurt puppies.
I don't think you understand, Pro. Why would you want to attack one thing when you can attack three things? That's just basic math.
I forgot.
Yeah, Varus wants to be Twitch.
He really does want to be Twitch.
So again, I just want to compliment everyone. Chat is very lighthearted. People are joking back and forth. People are asking and answering questions. Nobody's going, no ganks, GG. So really nice attitude to see. Really glad that no one's being upset. So keep it up, guys.
See, now it's GG because Cho'Gath is stealing away all of his mid laner's buffs.
Wow, report show, please. Stealing buffs.
I know.
I had to report a Syndra the other day. She kept throwing.
No. No. Just no.
So both teams are neck and neck. There's a 2k goal difference. Still, purple team does have the late game advantage, but they have just given up a round of objectives. Leona going in on Kale. Ari picks up the kill, and it looks like Lulu isn't far behind. She steps on a shroom, and the Leona stuns her. Elise goes in with the repel. Wild Growth does go down, but it's not enough, and you now have 3 dead on purple.
That was a really good fight. I am going to rewind, and I want to point out something that they did, though. Unfortunately, the Leona ult doesn't quite connect onto the Lulu. Lulu steps on the shroom, though, so at this point, she's pretty much dead. But if you look at blue team, they are walking in a straight line up to Lulu. So that lets her use a Glitter Lance across the entire team. And while that doesn't cost them this fight, I'm not saying by any means that, oh my god, terrible, terrible play. But if you're versus a Lulu, do not line up behind her. That's letting her slow your entire team as they're chasing. And that is a very, very potent slow.
Right, I believe Glitter Lance is 80%.
Oh, it's devastating, the amount of slow that it pumps out. Teemo gets a lot of damage onto him. He needs to be very, very careful in this upcoming fight, and barely able to live through the Cho'Gath ult. A lot of poke going back and forth on both teams. If I were blue team, though, I'd be trying to siege this tower. Set up shrooms all around it. Oh, they are able to take down the Zed. Good.
Ari Ari is really, whenever she can hit a charm and just unlay her combo, she demolishes people. The problem is with Ari this game is that she's doing a lot of fancy footwork she doesn't have to. She uses ult charges to catch up to people. She flashes aggressively into Zed. She ults to escape team fights, for instance. I wish I could just see her being a little more patient and willing to set up combos.
Agreed. I'd also like to see this Kale stop walking into people. I don't mean that as a horrible, horrible insult. I have seen a number of times, though. She keeps trying to walk mid, and in the process, nice pickup onto the Ashe. Really, really good job by blue team there. But Kale seems to just sort of walk down mid lane and then get caught out and die. And it could be that she's lagging, it could be she's not watching the map very closely, but that's a very bad thing at this stage of the game. If you are a Kale, if you are some sort of a AP or AD carry come late game, if you're dead, that's not going to be good for any sort of fight that starts.
The inhib goes down. Blue team is swinging around. Leona's tanking. They're going to try to pick up a second inhib tower, except they seem split. Varus and Teemo were going to try to end the game. They swing back around, and as for Teemo's just streaming up base, they take another tower, and then it looks like they are going for the inhib as well.
That poor Leona, her team kept they stopped attacking the actual turret a number of times, and as a result, she just barely lived. She still goes in, though, which is very, very manly of her. I like that.
I agree. She had the Banshee's Veil, so she was safe from getting, for instance, feasted. She had her ult. She blew these cooldowns. Ooh, Ashe
Beautiful
arrow
arrow.
onto Teemo. Teemo manages to survive, but that was still an excellent arrow. Top is pushing. It doesn't look like it's going to pick up the tower, but blue team just did take 2 inhibs. They have a 3k gold advantage. They're 5 kills up. Baron's up in just over a minute, so we'll see whether blue team has a timer on that and knows to pick it up again.
Yeah, keeping timers on buffs. You see a lot of people not do it in solo queue. Hell, I even forget sometimes when I'm playing. I'm not a jungler, so that's my excuse. But keeping a timer on it, even if it's a rough timer, if you don't have vision on it, that's fine. But write down an approximate time. Just keep in mind, okay, it's up in the next minute, in the next minute and a half. Get a ward on it so that you can try and stop that objective. So at this point, Teemo, if I were him, I'd be setting up shrooms all around Baron, which he looks to be doing a little bit, and get some wards in there, get some map control, and try and set up the Baron, and that could then be a free win for blue team. They can just end the game as soon as they get that.
Apparently, Kayla is saying he has to go, so possibly looking from a forfeit from purple side.
Taking a note about timers, you can go into the options on your game, and there's an option to turn on timestamps. So you'll see blue team has slain the dragon at 40:20. And from there, it's really easy to go dragon 46:20. You have the timer right there. You just add 6 minutes for dragon, 7 minutes for baron. Boom. Keeping timers is now super easy.
Yep, buffs are 5 minutes, dragon 6 minutes, and the baron is 7-minute respawn timer.
That's what I just said, bro. God.
You didn't say buffs, God.
Oh my God,
I'm pretty
so
sure
rude.
wraiths are 50 seconds or 45 seconds, and then golems are a minute and a half. Leona, again, landing some good stuns. At this point, though, it just boils down to, is blue team going to throw a fight? Unfortunately, Kale has left. It's late enough in the game that it's really hard to hold that much against her. That being said, do try and have enough time to complete these games if you're going to sign up for the workshop. It kind of sucks for both teams at this point. The game's pretty much over, but having to leave is not a good thing. Team mode does get shut down.
Excellent effort from both sides. Last week we did unfortunately have some stomps due to matchmaking issues. It's early in the season, but this was a really even game. It could have gone to either side, so good job to both teams. No matter how it ended up, everyone did play their best. For most valuable player, I would like to say Cho'Gath is the most valuable player for purple side. He did not have a lot of early game jungle presence. He didn't need to. He knew his role. He knew his role was a late game champ, and he really carried that out to perfection. For blue side, I'd say Elise was the MVP. She had a total chokehold on the map early on. She knew her champion's strengths, and she just covered the whole map and just really gave lanes a lot of advantages. So I would say both junglers were MVPs that game. I don't know if you guys will agree or not.
Yeah, on the blue side, I would probably say a mix between Ahri and Leona. Leona set up really, really good plays, and we gave Ari a lot of hate. But she did land some good combos, she did set up some good plays, and yeah, she had some issues, but she did improve throughout the game, and she pulled off some really good stuff for her team. So I really like that, and I would like to give her a quick little shout out for that. In the meantime, item builds. Elise. I'm interested that she picked up a Frozen Heart. But outside of that, it's pretty standard. A lot of Magic Pen. You have your Void Staff, Abyssal, and Liandry's. We would expect to see Elise a little bit more tanky, honestly. I would have liked to see a Banshee's Veil on her, and probably a Randuin's.
Frozen Heart wasn't the greatest pickup. Leona already had one when she had purchased it.
Oh yeah, you never duplicate Frozen Heart if you can avoid it. But in terms of items I would have liked to see, I would have said Randuin's instead of the Frozen Heart, and I really would have liked to see a Banshee's Veil, because if you look at the enemy team, a lot of their team boils down to single skill initiation. An Ash Arrow lands, boom, you go in. A Lulu polymorphs someone, it's sort of a strong engage. Cho'Gath lands a Rupture, you go in. So if you're able to block one of those skills, you're able to avoid a lot of their engages. Not that it would have necessarily made a huge difference, but I would have liked to see one. I think it would have been a slightly better pickup than just stacking massive Magic Pen. Then on Varus, I don't like the Hurricane. We've said that to death.
I'm pretty sure Pro secretly loves a Hurricane. Like, you open up his closet, and there's like a Hurricane shrine, of just pictures of Hurricane all over the walls.
Well, I do play Janna.
This is true.
But yeah, no, I would have liked to see a Last Whisper on him, because you do have some reasonably tanky targets, mostly Cho'Gath, in order to try and take down. So Last Whisper would have gone absolute miles for his damage output. On Ari, she never did build a DFG, and that's really weird to me. DFG would have let her set up a lot more pick potential. Between DFG and your E, you're going to decimate whoever you hit if you land a combo onto them. Teemo, he did end up getting some CDR, but it was really, really late game, and he never did get a Liandry's. Liandry's, as we mentioned before, late game item, but is very, very powerful on him come mid to late game. So I would have liked to see a Liandry's picked up, possibly, and maybe some earlier CDR, but overall, not a terrible build. Leona's build is good, but very niche. Frozen Heart is a fine item. I think it's undervalued right now, but you could have just got a Sunfire Cape. You could have got a Sunfire, you could have got a Randuin's. It seems like a very specific item choice, but in this case I like it, because the enemy team has a lot of auto-attacking champions. I believe you mentioned, Infamous, that she picked it up before Elise, and if that's the case, then definitely correct purchase. If Elise already had one, though, then I would have got a Randuin's and or a Sunfire Cape. Ashe, we mentioned, did not get early lifesteal. That really hurt her, but she did come back and do some nice things later game. I also would have liked to see a Last Whisper. Again, Last Whisper is pretty much core on AD carries. If you don't have Last Whisper come mid to late game, any small amount of armor is going to absolutely shit on your damage output. Kale, I don't like the Ginsu's. It's an okay item, but it's so outclassed. Like, there's so much other items she could have built. She could have finished her Hourglass. She could have got a Void Staff if she wanted to go AP burst. She could have gone Guardian Angel if she wanted to be, like, super tanky and have a million revives and invulnerabilities. There's just so many items she could have built for various purposes that would have outperformed Rageblade. Hell, a Banshee's Veil would have been nice to stop the Teemo Shrooms. Again,
I understand the
it's
thinking
fine.
behind the Rageblade, but I agree with what you're saying. I'm sure the thinking behind the Rageblade was, they can get me low, that'll proc the Rageblade, and then I have ulti on myself, so now I have the Rageblade passive. But
Yeah.
I still completely agree with what you said.
Yeah, it's an okay item, but it's just so outperformed by everything else you could hope to build. It's
Absolutely.
It's the same as Hurricane. It's a fine item. It's a fun item, but buy something else. It's going to serve you better.
Yeah.
Zed, you had concerns about him building a Hydra. Again, I don't play Zed, but I've seen a lot of Zeds build it in the past, and my understanding is it's the same reason you build it on Riven. It's an auto-attack reset. You combine your burst into a smaller period of time so that your Death Mark does more damage.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
I'm okay with his build. Lulu's build is okay, but why does she have a Frostfang? I don't like the Frostfang. I would have gone for... I definitely would have gone Talisman of Ascension. More speed buff for your team so that you can follow up Ash Arrows, so you can disengage, so you can set up plays. It's the worst gold pretend item right now, and that's why it's being reworked. But in its current state, I don't see why you'd build it. Cho'Gath's build, I really, really like. it's pretty much perfect actually. A lot of AP, but still a lot of tankiness. So I like that. Only because they have a team on the enemy team. I keep mentioning Banshee's Veil, and I feel Banshee's Veil is completely underrated at the moment because no one builds it, and it counters Teemo very, very nicely. Because, okay, it only activates once every, I think, 45 seconds or 60 seconds? Either way, that's an extra shroom you take off the map. That's an extra bit of burst that you block. I like it as an item, especially when you're versus a Teemo, but I can't really judge his build. It's fine. It worked well for him.